Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Letzi, Superintendent of the New Canaan Public Schools. School safety and security is our top priority, and we consider it to be our greatest responsibility. As a matter of fact, it's always on our minds here in the school. And with the recent events in Texas and elsewhere, I'd be surprised if it wasn't on everyone else's mind too. Here in New Canaan, we have a long history of focus and commitment to school safety and security, actually spanning over 25 years. We have the Crisis Advisory Board, which we call CAB, that meets regularly to review best practices, to discuss our current practices across the district, to make sure that our practices are aligned with those best practices. The group comes together to learn from the emerging research that's coming from the field, both from security professionals, law enforcement officers, and others. We get together to design drills, sometimes live, sometimes tabletop, sometimes others, to consider our school safety and security plan, to update that plan and make sure that we have all the right steps, all the right approvals, and that we're submitting that plan annually to the state. Essentially, the Crisis Advisory Board is our think tank and our working group at the same time. So to do this work, we have a variety of perspectives that come to bear, including our district administrators, building administrators. Every building is represented. Our nurses, our mental health personnel, our technology group, our SROs, campus monitors, and representatives from outside the district too, including our police officers, fire, ambulance, emergency services, and of course our Director of Emergency Management, Russ Kimes. We meet regularly to do this work together, both in those meetings, but also during drills. We'll invite members of CAB to come to observe the drill, to help us to process afterwards, and to continually refine our processes. This CAB is truly a state model, probably beyond state model, something again that goes back over 25 years, and something I'm very, very proud of, because it is a group that meets regularly to have these hard discussions and to make some hard decisions. For instance, when the district made the decision to implement the ALICE protocol that first went through CAB, it was members of CAB that went to some of that training, tested that out, worked through, learned a lot about it, and then we felt comfortable as a district going ahead and implementing those protocols. It's just one of many examples of how we focus continually on school safety and security when it's in the news and when it's not in the news, because we know that our number one priority is making sure our schools are safe, nurturing, welcoming places for every child. We want every child to know, and every staff member to know, that we're doing whatever it takes to keep our schools that way for them, to make sure that they are the nurturing, welcoming places that schools are meant to be. The Crisis Advisory Board regularly gives updates to the Board of Education. The most recent was in November of 2017, and what follows this brief summary is that 2017 presentation. If you'd like to learn more, I invite you to stay on and to review that. Some of the names have changed. For instance, Joanne Rocco is leading the presentation as the co-director of CAB. You'll see that she's with Steve Bedard. Joanne has since retired. Steve has stepped up to be, he's still in the role, he stepped up to be sort of co-leader of CAB, now with Christy Carrero, who's our assistant principal over at the high school. As I mentioned, every one of our buildings is represented every time that we meet. And it's a meeting that we really don't miss, because we know how important this is. Anyway, some of the names have changed, but the work, the commitment, and the focus never wavers. So if you're interested in learning more, I invite you to take a look and to watch that presentation. And we're already putting together a presentation for the fall of 2020, so CAB can come share an update with the Board of Education and answer any questions from there. We also know that mental health is an important dimension of this work. And so you heard me mention that members from the mental health team that are part of CAB. We're also putting together a presentation on that that'll be shared with the board in the fall as well. So we look at this problem broadly, understanding the many complexities to it, but in each area we also go deep, and we do whatever it takes to learn what needs to be learned, to implement the appropriate protocols, and to keep our schools safe and secure. So I invite you to learn more by watching this about 20-minute presentation to the Board of Ed from November of 2017. There is a presentation on our website, goes all the way back to 2014, where CAB again came before the Board of Ed, and then invite you certainly to tune in the fall when our current members of CAB come to give another update to the board. So thank you for your interest in and support of our school district. School safety and security is everybody's work. Together as a community, we can do our very best to keep our kids safe as we do the most important work on the planet in our schools every day. And I thank you for all of your support.
For the opportunity to update you on the work of our District Crisis Advisory Board. I have to say I feel very well protected tonight with New Canaan's best behind me. It's been several years since we've updated the board on the work of the Crisis Advisory, so we'd like to provide some background information for those of you who are new to the board, and then give you an update on some of the initiatives and some of the work over the past 2 years. As with all of the work that we do in New Canaan, our work with the Crisis Advisory Board is related to one of our school goals, Goal 4, and the objective continued to analyze and update safety and security plans and practices. And the first bulleted point talks about some of the training initiatives and working with our first responders. And we're really fortunate in our town and in our schools that so many of our first responders are on our District Crisis Advisory Board. They're there for us whenever we need them. They're very collaborative, and they're the ones really who are the experts in safety. So we're really lucky that they offer us lots of training opportunities and just work with us collaboratively on all of the initiatives that we have related to school safety. The second bullet talks about security reviews and audits. Over the past several years, we've had several safety audits done. One was done by KERMA several years ago, and another was done by our state police. They did walkthroughs. They offered recommendations, some written recommendations for us. We brought that back to CAB. We reviewed those, and then we talked about what makes sense for our district and for our schools, and also for the different levels, and then implemented those changes to our plans. And the third bullet talks about updating our policies and our protocols and our procedures. We do that all the time. We meet monthly as a District Crisis Advisory Board, and we get input from all areas that might be involved in crisis planning, and we're continually looking at our plans, updating them based upon best practice, based upon workshops that we go to, and based upon all the expertise that we have on our District Crisis Advisory Board. Steve Bedard is going to talk to you a little bit about our Crisis Advisory Board, talk to you about the membership and some of the history behind it.
Thank you, Joanne. Our Crisis Advisory Board currently has about 24 members, and it does encompass our school administrators. As you can see, each school in the district is represented by an administrator. And why that's important, each one of us run our own school-based teams in which we have mental health professionals, teachers and other staff. And what we do on the school level is we really communicate what happens at CAB, and then additionally we review and plan for our own school-based drills. We are required to do one drill a month, and that really, the coordination of that happens at our school-based team levels. You have our central office staff and also our town and emergency services. This really is something I'm very prideful of, the fact that we have 3 agencies coming together to collaborate and really talk about some best practices and evaluate our own procedures in order to keep all of our staff and students safe, which is our ultimate goal. As Joanne mentioned, we have 24 members. We meet monthly, and we've been in existence since 1999. This is state mandated, and I'm again proud to say that we had a crisis advisory board prior to the state mandate. We always try to be ahead of the curve in order to again protect our students. Membership has expanded over the years to include all of our stakeholders, not only in the Board of Education, but through town. And again, just the collaborative effort, really kind of evaluate what we do to make sure we're keeping up with best practices. Again, we review and update our comprehensive and hazard plans based on emerging best practices, debrief local and national crisis. Anytime something happens, we do get together and we discuss it. Ask ourselves, if this happened in our town, are we prepared? Or do we have the policies and procedures, and are people ready for it? And that really does make sure that we keep up to date. Again, it's continual and collaborative, and we really want to ensure all stakeholders have a voice and are a part of this process. Additionally, we have training for administrators and our Crisis Advisory Board. We have CPR, AED, and Heimlich certification. In addition to us being certified, we also offer it to staff. NIMS 100 training certification. That's the National Incident Management System. All administrators do go through the training. It's about a 2-hour online course, and you do take a test at the end in recertification that you're able to manage an emergency situation. Active shooter training. The one that I personally participated in was at Silver Hill Hospital, where the CAB members, Brian was also with us additionally, and went through some scenarios, how to react, and really being in that live scenario puts you in the middle of it and kind of really puts you in a real situation to see how you'll react, so that way we can also train our staff. Tabletop scenarios, at the CAB level we do them with our staff, and we also do them with our kids. Really, kind of put them in a real life situation, and what that also does with our staff is it empowers them as leaders. They're our first line of defense. When an emergency happens, we rely on our staff, our teachers, to really lead our students to safety. Workshops and seminars related to safety and crisis preparedness. One we went to last year was I Love You Guys. The keynote speaker was the principal from Columbine High School, and talked about his experiences and what they learned from it. And lastly, something we went through this summer and another team did go through a few months ago was ALICE, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But what it is, it's a non-sequential procedure: alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. We've learned from some of the incidents that have taken place that we should be doing more, and we're committed to doing more, and that's really what the ALICE training is all about.
We know that it's important to have everyone in our school community be trained, and the purpose of training is really that everyone can respond to any kind of a situation and feel prepared to respond. I'd gone to a seminar, and something that really resonated with me was that they said we're all first responders, and that starts with children. Sometimes kids will see something, they'll respond, they'll tell us about something that they see or something that they hear isn't right. For staff members, we tell them, you can call a lockdown, you can pull a pull station. If you see something, do something, because we always hear seconds count. So, but if we don't train our staff, then they don't feel secure in responding to situations. So we train all of our staff, certified staff, administrators, teachers, support staff, non-certified staff. They're the ones who are with our children, sometimes our large groups of children in the cafeteria, at recess times, and they have a big responsibility with our children, so we try to train them as often as possible. So we train our teaching assistants, we train our interns, secretaries, custodians, technology staff, maintenance, cafeteria staff. We find various times to train them. Sometimes during the summer we do training with them. During the school day, if people are available, we'll train them. Substitutes also. And sometimes they're the variable because they come into the system at different times of the school year. So we do a video training with them. But we also do drills when we have substitutes in the building. And sometimes that's the best way to train someone when they have to respond. When they hear an announcement or if the fire alarm goes off, how do they respond? And sometimes we prep them because we want them to respond in the right way. And we want them to feel that they're capable of responding in the right way. Students from our kindergartners on up through our high school, we want them to know what to do in any kind of a situation. If they're walking through the hallways by themselves and they hear the lockdown announcement, what do you do if you're by yourself? So we certainly want our students to feel safe and to feel ready to respond. Our summer program staff, Jill and I, sometime in the spring, we meet with the summer program staff. We want them to be aware of all of our procedures for safety when they're with the children during the summer programs. How do we train tabletop scenarios? That's where we throw out a scenario and then we throw out a lot of questions. What if? One example was a lockdown during arrival time. So buses are coming, parents are coming with cars, children are walking to school. What would we do if there was a lockdown, some type of a situation that warranted a lockdown? What's the role of every person in the building? What do we do with the buses that are arriving? What do we do with the children who are at recess, parents who are dropping off their children? We did this scenario with our Crisis Advisory Board, we did it with our school-based safety teams, and we did it at staff meetings, just so everyone talks through it and what would you do. There's not always a right answer, but that's the purpose of it, to really have those conversations about what would you do, what's your role if you're in the building, what's your role if you're outside of the building, if you're with children, if you're not with children. So we've done tabletops around a lot of different scenarios, some that are more likely to happen and some that hopefully will never happen. Drills, and Steve will talk a bit more about drills, but we're required to do drills, but we've always done drills even before we were required, and we do a variety of different types of drills. Videos, I mentioned we use those with our substitutes because that's our only way to train all of them, but then we do kind of on the job or on the spot training with drills during the day. Staff meeting presentations and updates, that's how we keep our certified staff updated. Summer training sessions, we try to do those either every year or every other year. This year we did it for our secretaries, our custodians, maintenance, IT staff, and we had 51 people come through that training. And I have to say the level of commitment on the part of all of those people who come to the training during the summer is so high. They have great questions. They care a lot. They ask for more training, so it's great to see. And they realize that they play a vital role in school safety. Summer professional development opportunities, and Steve talked a bit about that. CPR, AED, Heimlich training. We just started offering that. We've always offered it for our administrators. We just started offering it for our campus monitors and our custodians. We did one during the summer. We had 13 people attend. And we're offering another one for any of our staff who would like to be trained, our certified staff, our non-certified staff. I know at South School alone we have about 40 people who signed up who would like to be trained. It's going to be hands-on, quick training, but it increases the number of people who are trained to respond in any kind of a medical situation. They're interested and they want that training, which I think is great. What's in place? There are many things in place. These are just a few items, but we have an all hazards crisis manual. So this is our crisis manual that's been in place since the beginning of CAB in 1999. We've reviewed it many times and updated it, but it's got about 24 different crisis situations and flow charts for it. We really use that for training purposes. In the middle of a crisis, we would not grab our crisis manual, but it helps us with our training. What are steps that we need to take afterwards when we debrief a crisis situation? Is there anything that we forgot, anything that we learned from it to update all of our flow charts? Check-in procedures for visitors and staff. All of our school has that so that we process all of our visitors in the same way at our school. School Gate Guardian, which is our technology that we use to run the licenses or identification and issue badges. And that's also integrated with the sex offender registry. So that comes up when someone's license is run and they are on the registry. And there are also other individuals who, for whatever reason, might not be allowed in schools. School Gate Guardian does bring that information up. Closed campuses at the elementary and the middle schools where all of our exterior doors are locked at all times. Crisis supplies, all of our classrooms have crisis supplies, all of our schools do. Anything that teachers might need in the classrooms. We have lockdown kits for all of the classrooms in the event of a lockdown, and then a lot of other general crisis supplies. We have a district reunification bin in the event that we had to go to another campus or off campus somewhere, and then we had to go through the reunification process with parents. That's a really involved and complicated process. We have a reunification bin with all of the student information that we might need, medical information, all of the signage that we need, anything that we would need for the reunification process, and that would just be brought right to that site. Emergency generators at all of our schools, AEDs, the automatic external defibrillators in all schools. Those have been in place for a number of years. Push-button locks, which is really a big improvement in locking down, because when we had keys, substitutes didn't always have access to keys. Where now every classroom, every office in the schools can all be locked down just with a push button, which we always hear that seconds count in a lockdown. So, and that's the most important thing, is to lock down, and that makes it very easy. And also internal and external video cameras in all of our schools. So those are some of the things that we have in place. just an emphasis on prevention. So we talk a lot about actual crisis planning, but certainly prevention is just as important as the actual crisis planning. We have school climate committees in all of our schools. We do surveys, and I know Susan Bliss has presented on that. We do daily safety walkthroughs of the campuses. Our campus monitors do those. Administrators walk through just to make sure that there's nothing that needs to be addressed in terms of safety. Ongoing education for all the members of the school community. And just being vigilant is probably the best prevention. And just telling our staff and telling our students, if you see something, and to keep your eyes open really as you walk around. If you see a door that's left open, let us know about it. Faculty communication and really letting our staff know if there's anything going on in town, anything going on with children, anything, keeping staff updated. And then the communication between police and administration. The police always let us know about anything that's going on that we need to know, whether it's in town or in another school, just so that we're informed and we take whatever actions that we need to take to be preventative. Partners in school safety, I'll turn it over to Officer Deek.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's kind of hard to follow two administrators and teachers, but I'll do my best. You know, like law enforcement, when Jeff and I got put into schools as SROs, we didn't quite know what our roles were going to be. But we quickly learned it's just like law enforcement. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to know what's going to happen each day. And one of the things that we do here is we work well with the administration. And our roles kind of in the school is just as it says, we build relationships, trusting relationships with the students, the staff, and the parents. And that's really important to have that trusting bond with kids that are coming in and out of your site every day, especially with their parents, when we all know how vulnerable we are nowadays. And we are the liaison between the school system and the town organizations, and we do this by maintaining communication. We maintain communication with our counselors, with the administrators, and with each other, which is so important. And we develop youth-related programs and initiatives. We are in the classrooms. We teach programs about the dangers of alcohol and drugs, and we're teaching some more stuff on vaporizers and the dangers and with the addictions with that as well. And we are part of the Crisis Advisory Board, and Jeff and I go on constant training to learn the new and improved methods and what's going on in the communities so that we can help prepare our kids to be as safe as possible. And one of the things that we've done with partners in the school system is we're kind of developing a feeder program. And a feeder program would be our school liaison officers at the elementary schools that don't have dedicated SROs. And we've got three great guys. Our South School representative is Roy Adams, and he works very well with Joanna. Our East School is George Caponera, and him and Chris Wolick have a great relationship. And the West School is Tom Callanan. Tom Callanan has been in the school systems a little bit longer, and all three young guys that are full of energy and understand the relationship and how important it is to build trusting relationships with parents and these kids. And the role in schools is to be that face, is to walk through the hallways and get to know these kids and get to know these families and be familiar with the campuses should there be a crisis that happens. These guys know the buildings inside and out, and that's important. And they build positive connections with the relationships with the school community. They present safety assemblies like stranger danger, which is really important and sometimes fun to be around. And they visit the classrooms and they attend all the school events, like the dances, like the plays. It's really important for them to see these officers as human beings outside the school setting as well. I'm going to turn this over to Dave Waniga, our lead campus monitor.
Thank you, Jeff. Our campus monitors are located in all of our school system, schools we have in the system, elementary, middle school, and high school. Presently, we have 9 full-time members and 2 substitutes. We have 3 at the high school, 3 at the middle school, and 1 campus monitor each elementary school. The program began in 2013 following the Sandy Hook tragedy. All of our campus monitors are experienced and trained individuals with backgrounds in law enforcement. We used updated access and monitoring tools. Closed campuses at the elementary and the middle schools are accessed only through authorization. We also have monitors to watch the interior and exterior of the school for any suspicious persons or any safety issue. We complete safety, security checks at entrances and sweep throughout our school and school grounds. This is probably our most important function to ensure that persons coming on the campus are authorized to be there. We have regular meetings between campus monitors and administrators to train, gather input, and continually improve upon school safety. We are the eyes and the ears of the administrators. Any safety issue or any important issue that we see, we obviously go back and notify our principals. We're also members of, each individual school has a school-based safety and security team. They meet once a month, and the campus monitor is part of that team. We assist in maintaining an orderly and safe, secure environment. We participate in all school drills and debrief with administrators and first responders after each drill. Promote positive school climate and culture. Our monitors meet the children as they come to school in the morning. We also establish and maintain good relationship with both parents and students. Okay.
Educating our students, we educate them on a variety of topics and in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's the administrators who are doing some of the sessions with students. A lot of times it's the police who come. Sometimes it's our campus monitor. These are some of the topics that we educate our students on. The fire department always comes and does fire safety with our primary children. Same thing with stranger danger. The police come and present that. We just added in pedestrian safety. We had an incident on 106 where it was a close call for one of our South School students crossing the street. So the police were really responsive to that. They came and they did assemblies for all of our grade levels and talked about being a safe pedestrian and just how to do that. So there's lots of different ways. Some of this is grade specific. Drug and alcohol is also something that's done for the upper grades. Bullying is something across the grades. Vaping is something that actually the police just did for our staff because we needed to be informed about that because it seems to be getting down into the levels also, but also just for students and safety around that. So we do training with children all of the time and education with them all of the time, and safety is something that's always uppermost in our minds. So some of the training is regular, it's yearly, and then some of it is just responsive to some of the needs and some of the new trends also.
You've heard a little bit about some of our drills that we do to train our staff and students through empowerment. Our first one is our fire and evacuation drills. Sometimes we'll throw in variables. We'll block fire egresses so kids and staff have to reroute. And that's just to make sure that they know where additional exits are to exit the building safely. We have our lockdown drills, our full, modified, closed campus, what the differences are between those, and also drills during transition times. It could happen, and we've done some drills. Where do kids go? Typically find the closest classroom. Sometimes it's not always your teacher, but again, safety is paramount, so we want to make sure that they're trained for those situations. Our cafeteria drills, I know at SACS, each year that goes through, each grade does do a cafeteria drill, where to go. It also trains our non-certified staff, who is oftentimes in there supervising our kids during cafeteria time. Plainclothes intruder drill. I'm going to share a story that really, I think, kind of encompasses and shows you the importance and the value of this is. So we had done a tabletop, about 15 minutes with all of our students at SACS, and one of the scenarios was kind of if you don't recognize someone, what do you do? And we did a plainclothes intruder drill, and the plainclothes officer walked in with my 7th grade coming in from recess Within about 3 seconds, one of the fifth graders who was transitioning to a specials class notified a teacher and said, "That man doesn't look like he belongs here." So we did the tabletop. Student had gone through some of the training, talk it over with their teacher, what to do, and within about 3 seconds, one of our fifth graders was able to identify someone who didn't belong in Saks because they weren't wearing their badge, and was able to notify a teacher immediately. So I think that's a great story to share with you guys about the importance and the value of our training and our drills. Rescue whistle drills, what happens at recess? We had a fire drill as a result of some of our construction about 2 months ago, and it was during recess. And I was worried because we hadn't done it that year yet, but when the whistles went off, all of our kids went to the blacktops and assembled by their science class, which is how we take attendance during a fire drill during recess for kids who are outside. Bus evacuation drills. If we do have to evacuate, where do kids go? Who do they follow? And again, our teachers, our certified staff are really the leaders in that situation. Our bus times do have certified staff on duty to help. Weather-related drills. When I was doing the summer program, we actually had a weather-related instance where we all had to move to classrooms that did not have windows. So having our procedures in place so we know what to do in all emergency situations. We always do invite first responders to come observe these drills, and oftentimes we'll go and observe administrators at other buildings engaging in these drills. And again, it's valuable because we never know what could happen, but we try to plan for all situations and scenarios. Just looking ahead, again, continue to practice drills and different variables. As we come up with things, we don't have all the answers, but we certainly want to have ongoing discussions so we can plan for any situation. Continue with our education of students, staff, parents about prevention and safety. Again, we really want to use the empowerment model, teachers and staff as leaders. Continue to evaluate our plans based on current and local national events. If something happens, we want to make sure that we take that information and make sure we're aligned with best practices. Consider options for our lockdown procedures. As we mentioned, Alice, non-sequential. What do we do? One of the things we've learned is, locking down in a classroom. There are other things we should have been doing. Are we able to barricade us in? Are we able to spread out in a room so we're not all in one small area? Are we able to counter? Are we able to evacuate? It's really, again, empowering staff and students to make a common sense decision about how to maintain safety. And then lastly, continue our training for all staff based upon best practices and current research. Thank you very much.